Welcome to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey from vision to reality. I'm Kelly Jackson, your guide on this path of self-discovery, transformation, and intentional living. Here, we explore everything from mindset shifts and personal growth to spiritual alignment and entrepreneurship, sharing insights, stories, and actionable wisdom to help you live a life in harmony with your dreams. Every episode will dig into what it means to not only dream big, but to actually consciously create the life you envision. Let's turn your dreams into real life. Welcome to today's episode. And, I was thinking, things do not always go as planned for me. Definitely. And I wanted to share how I handle that. How do you handle it when things don't go as planned? And this episode is for those moments when it feels like life throws a curveball. You get the rug pulled out from under you. Things don't unfold the way you envisioned. When a door that you were certain would open stays shut. Maybe it's failure. Maybe it's heartbreak. Maybe it's an unexpected loss. Whatever it is, the real question is, what now? Now what? And how do we process disappointment holistically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually without bypassing our feelings? And how do we move forward without suppressing or numbing or avoiding? And how do we reframe the experience so that it serves our growth rather than diminishes our spirit? And guys, been there, done that, right? I've lived this. So this episode will guide you through that process, offering both practical tools that you can integrate now and a metaphysical perspective to help you trust the unfolding of your journey, the beautiful unfolding of your journey. So I think the best place to start for this conversation is at the beginning, right? The initial shock of when it happens. And that's kind of the acknowledging what is segment. And the first step is simply acknowledging the reality of what has happened. No sugarcoating, no pretending it doesn't hurt. Just the raw, unfiltered truth. And this is the moment when emotions are high and we might feel like we are spiraling. And there is a power of presence here. So before you go rushing to, quote, fix or even reframe, allow yourself to be with what is. Discomfort is not the enemy here. Avoidance is. So we don't want to avoid this. We want to sit with it even if it's uncomfortable. And chances are it's going to be pretty uncomfortable. Because often our first instinct when things don't go as planned is to search for solutions immediately. And we want to intellectualize and rationalize and figure out how to, make it better. But presence is where the healing starts. Sitting with your emotions, even when they're uncomfortable, is this courageous act of self-awareness. And it's in this space of raw honesty that true clarity begins to emerge. And if we rush ahead too quickly, we're going to bypass the wisdom that this moment is offering us. So instead of avoiding, ask yourself, what is here for me in this moment? And observe that without judgment. There's also this idea of labeling versus feeling. And instead, and I know, guys, I've done this. I've done it. And I recognize it. And that's why I want to talk about it today, so that maybe you could recognize it too if you've done it. Instead of calling something a failure or a loss, just feel it without attaching a story. Look at it as energy that wants to move. Because our minds love to categorize experiences. This is good. This is bad. I succeeded. I failed. But in reality, things just are. They just are. And when we remove the labels, we allow the emotion to move through us naturally. And remember, emotion, it's energy in motion. And so when we remove these labels, we're allowing the emotion to move through us naturally. And it's only when we start to attach these stories like I'm not good enough or I always mess up. It's like that's when the pain lingers longer than it needs to. And also, again, this is an affirmation. I mean, we're affirming to ourselves in this specific example I just gave that we're not good enough or that we always mess up. And our subconscious mind will act in a way that we will just get proof of this is what we continue to affirm. So let's remove the labels, allow the emotions to move through naturally. And instead of making it about identity, like I am a failure, bring it back to this neutral perspective. Like this didn't go the way I planned. And that simple shift alone can change everything. Because I am a failure. I'm a failure. Again, that's an affirmation. I am a failure. And because you are putting a failure on the other side of I am, that is making it about identity. You are identifying yourself as a failure. And you're not a failure. Regardless of what happened, you're not a failure. Did maybe things not go the way you planned? Hey, maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't, and that's okay. We're going to get into that later. But what I want to remind you of is don't make it about identity. Just bring it back to a neutral perspective. And that shift really can change everything. And then when we can feel without judgment, we honor our humanity rather than shame ourselves for it. We're humans, guys. We're humans. And we've got to allow ourselves to feel without judging ourselves for feeling. And maybe you didn't grow up in an environment where it was safe to feel. You couldn't have your big emotions or feel without being judged or criticized or punished or reacted to or whatever, all of the different things. But you are safe now, and you set the tone. You show other people how it's done, right? The way that you treat yourself is you're teaching other people how to treat you, letting them know how to do it. You have got to allow yourself to feel without judging yourself for it. And honor that, again, as part of your humanity rather than something to feel shameful for. That's part of what makes you human. We came here to experience the full range, the full spectrum of all of the human emotions. And your body has wisdom. And where do you feel this in your body? Like, what is that trying to tell you? Emotions is what I'm talking about. They don't just exist in the mind, they live in the body. And that tightness in your chest, or that pit in your stomach, or the tension in your jaw, or that tension between your eyebrows, right? All of that, that's your body speaking to you. And instead of resisting or numbing the sensations, get curious. Close your eyes. Place your hands in the area where you feel the discomfort and simply breathe into it. And if you've not tried that before, I'm inviting you, try it now. And this is a practice of somatic awareness. And it helps to release the stuck energy rather than allowing it to manifest as stress, as anxiety, or illness in your body, because that will happen. Again, I've lived this life, right? And your body holds wisdom beyond what your mind can comprehend, and you can trust it to guide you through. There's a wonderful, if you've not heard of or read, Louise Hay, Heal Your Body, Heal Your Life. Those are 2 books that she wrote. There's others as well, but that's something I'd recommend if you're talking about your body holding wisdom beyond what your mind can comprehend. She's a good resource. That's a good place to start. Now let's keep going with our idea here of this initial shock, right? Of when something happens, the door doesn't open, the rug gets pulled, the unexpected thing happens. And so listen to what your body's telling you, and then avoid the bypass, meaning the spiritual and self-help world will often kind of preaches, if you want to use that word, this whole everything happens for a reason. But that doesn't mean that you're skipping the part where you feel what's happening. And yes, there may be a higher purpose to what you are going through, but trying to force that perspective too soon can feel dismissive of your own emotions. And there's a difference between trusting the bigger picture and bypassing the reality of your human experience. Both can coexist. And you can trust that there is a bigger picture, and also acknowledge that the reality of this human experience and how you are feeling in this moment, which maybe does not feel, maybe you feel sad, and maybe you're experiencing grief. Maybe your heart is broken, and maybe that's how you're feeling right now, and you've got to allow yourself to feel those things. And when we allow ourselves to be fully present with our pain, we integrate the lesson more deeply rather than suppressing it. We're like integrating the lesson. We're not just suppressing the pain. And instead of searching for immediate meaning, like I've got to make sense of this, right? It's everything happens for a reason. Well, let me figure out the reason right now. Instead of searching for this immediate meaning, the reason, give yourself permission to just be with what is. And the meaning will reveal itself in time. And I mentioned grief, so let's talk about that. Grief comes in waves. And if your heart is involved, there will be grief. And grief is nonlinear. One day you might feel like you've made peace with it. And the next day you hear a song or some memory or some random moment will like bring it all rushing back. And that's normal. And our culture often maybe rushes grief, whether it's like the end of a relationship or a business that didn't take off or a pregnancy that miscarried or a dream that didn't unfold the way we hoped. But grief has its own timeline, and you can't rush grief. The key is to allow yourself to flow with the waves rather than fight them. Flow with the waves of grief. And when the emotions rise, meet them with compassion rather than resistance. Grief isn't something to, get over. It's something to integrate and honor and grow through. And give yourself the space to do that. Ask yourself, what emotions are present for me right now? And without any justification or explanation, just what emotions are present right now? And are you checking in with yourself and asking yourself stuff like this? These are good things to do. Let's keep going. Now we felt the initial shock, and now we're going to create a sacred container for feeling without drowning. And feeling your emotions does not mean getting lost in them, because there is a difference between honoring your grief and becoming consumed by it. So, how do you give yourself the space to process without spiraling? Because, again, we have to process. We don't want to just be suppressing and avoiding and numbing, and we want to process. We want to do it in a way where we're not going to spiral. And one of the things that has worked well for me is the aligned time frame. And what that is, giving yourself permission to feel for a set period. And maybe it's one full day of crying, journaling, or moving energy, or whatever allows you to fully process without lingering indefinitely. And sometimes not even just the feeling, maybe sometimes you need to give yourself a day of not feeling, not thinking about it. Like, one of those, I want to dissociate days and I just want to watch movies on Netflix all day. And I know that this is me not wanting to handle it, but right now this is what my nervous system needs. I need comfort, and I need to just feel comfort. That's what I need to feel. And this is the way I'm going to do this. But here's the thing. You do that for an aligned amount of time. Okay, I'm going to give myself this day to feel sad and to stay in my jammies and to emotionally eat, right? To eat comfort foods and to just watch movies all day or whatever I want to do. I'm going to do that. But I'm going to give myself an aligned amount of time to do that. This is not going to become, I'm not just going to become the person who doesn't care about life anymore and who doesn't take baths or put myself together or keep my house tidy, or this is what I do now. I just binge out on Netflix every day because I'm feeling so sad. Well, no, that's what I'm saying. We're going to give ourselves an aligned amount of time. And this has helped, because I know there have been phases of my life when I would spiral and just go again. I mean, probably days without even feeling like I could even take a bath. So I know what not making my bed, just all the kinds of things. And I know dishes in the sink, piling up, just all of the things. I know what it feels like to go down that, to just let go and to feel like you kind of stop caring. And so because I've experienced that and lived that before, one of the things that works for me now is the aligned time frame, to say, if I'm not going to judge myself for like needing to have a moment, but I'm going to do it for an aligned amount of time. Maybe it's 24 hours. Look, I'm giving myself this weekend to not really focus on any other responsibilities and to just dissociate, really. I just want to veg out, and I just want to not think about anything and not try to be productive or to do whatever. But I know if I continue like that, it's not going to feel good, and it's not who I'm becoming, who I am. So this has worked. And I feel like if we, again, because it's not about rushing my healing, it's like, or your healing, it's giving yourself intentional space to feel everything fully. And I feel like if we don't set an aligned container for processing, the emotions can just leak into everything we do, which can make it harder to move forward. And look, you might say, for the next 24 hours, I'm allowing myself to fully feel this. And then like after that, I will shift into taking small aligned steps forward. But for this 24 hours, I'm just going to fully feel it, whatever that means. That's crying, screaming, whatever it means, And then this creates a balance between allowing and moving forward without forcing either. And I'll give you another example that's, I wonder if this is a good place to say it. Well, I'll mention it here. I know there was an experience that I had gone through. It was one of those, gotten some news that kind of turned your world upside down. And this was impacting my life in a really significant way for a good year and a half, a good 18 months. This news was, just receiving the news and everything that came with it. It was impacted my life in a significant way for about 18 months. And so during that period of time, because I still have a family to raise and I have a business to run and the community I'm a part of and just all of these things, I still have a life to live, right? And I want to enjoy my life, and I did enjoy my life. But one of the ways I was able to do that and to still feel like I was thriving in my life and in all of these ways was I got what they offer as like situational therapy. So you can have a therapist for all kinds of reasons. And one of the ways you can enter into a relationship with a therapist is like a situational therapy, meaning that I've got this situation that's going on and I want support while I'm going through it. And so during that period of time, for 1 hour a week, for that period that I was going through this, I had a relationship with a therapist, someone I was speaking to, and it was just the one person, and that was the aligned amount of time. Like that was the energy that I was going to give this. And if something maybe triggered me or upset me or whatever, I wasn't picking up my phone and calling anyone or texting anyone, or no one else was involved. This was just something that I was going through. And if I felt the emotions, I was like, okay, make note of it, feel it, whatever. And I knew that I had this aligned amount of time each week that I was going to give this. And this worked really well for me because I wasn't holding on to stuff throughout the week. I wasn't allowing it to, it wasn't lingering. I just knew that I could move that energy. That energy was moving. And if I hadn't resolved it on my own, if it hadn't resolved itself, if I hadn't gained clarity on whatever may have come up by the time that appointment happened, then that was my space, my safe space to work through it, to talk about it, to have an unbiased person that could give me feedback and perspective and whatnot. And that really helped me. That helped me move the energy. It helped me to keep things flowing from feeling like I was bottling it up. And also I didn't feel the need to go talk about it outside of that one. I had this one, that was just the one place, that it was the one safe space. I didn't need to, nothing else needed to be said. That was the place I could deal with this. And it was really great. I just wanted to mention that in case that sounds like something anyone else may be interested in. Somatic release. Also, I'm going to encourage that. Breath work, movement, even vocal expression they're all tools to move emotions through the body rather than getting stuck in them. And I think movement's one of the most powerful ways to shift stagnant emotions. And that can be walking, dancing, yoga, any kind of fitness, just movement. Roller skating. I love to roller skate. Hula hooping, jump roping. It doesn't matter. Really, jump roping is so good for your lymphatic system as well. If you didn't know that, or the jumping on the trampoline, those little mini trampolines. These are really good things for your lymphatic system. Anyway, and stagnant emotions. Also, breath work, yoga, or even intuitive movements, just intuitive movements, right? That can all help your body process what your mind is struggling with. And sound is also a powerful release. And whether you're humming or sighing or chanting, or even, like I mentioned earlier, screaming into a pillow. Yes, really, scream into a pillow. When words fail, you can let your body do the talking. And another word I love, and I actually was having a conversation today and this got brought up, but emotional alchemy. Viewing emotions as energy that can be transmuted rather than problems to solve. And when you instead of seeing emotions as obstacles, see them as this raw material that can be transformed into something new. Y'all know I'm an artist, and artists channel their pain into paintings. Musicians can turn their heartbreak into songs. Entrepreneurs use failure as fuel for their next creation. Trust me. So what if all of this experience, all of these experiences that you may be going through, but what if this experience, it's giving you the raw material for something greater? So, and I know, again, I'm not telling you not to I'm not asking you to bypass your emotions, not feel it and just get over it. No, but I am saying that when we shift our mindset from why is this happening to me to how can this be used for me, everything changes. And I like to ask well, okay, what is one intentional way that I can create space to fully process my emotions today? And I mean, a lot of times that's be in nature, get my journal, get my sketchbook, draw, create, be creative, move my body, meditate, cry, sing, drive, turn the radio up. It doesn't matter. I mean, who knows? But ask yourself that. And then reframe the narrative. There are these stories that we tell ourselves. And once you've given yourself the space to fully feel, then the next step is to look at the narrative you're creating around what happened. Because these stories that we tell ourselves shape our experience. So are you framing this as proof that you're not good enough? Or that you don't deserve something? Or that you're not worthy? Or is this a pivotal moment of growth? So can you go from why me to what is this teaching me? Because it's natural for our initial reaction to be frustration, disappointment, sadness, maybe even resentment, anger. And we might feel like life is unfair, or like things should have gone differently, or just that we just really believed that it was going to go a different way. But what if, instead of seeing this as something that happened to you, what if you shifted to asking, well, what is this teaching me? And maybe this setback is revealing something that you need to refine. And maybe it's redirecting you towards something that is even more aligned. I did a whole episode on that. Check it out. It's a really good one. It's called Redirection to, Rejection. Pardon me. It's called Rejection to Redirection to Success. It's good. But maybe it's redirecting you just to something more aligned. And when sometimes we're not aware that we're in a bit of a victim consciousness, and sometimes we are, even if we're not aware of it. And sometimes we may even be aware of it, but when we move from that victim consciousness to curiosity, we reclaim our power over the situation. When we are the victim, that situation has a lot of power over us. When we can say, you know what, I'm curious. What is this teaching me? What do I need to refine? My container for receiving must not be big enough yet, or the structure, like it's not structurally sound. How I want to receive this thing, and I've got to have the capacity to receive it. So get curious and discover, what is the role of identity in disappointment? Like separating yourself from the outcome. Because so often we attach our identity to our goals and our dreams and our relationships. And we think, well, if this doesn't work out, it means something about me. Well, if I failed, what does that say about me? If this didn't work out the way I thought, what does that say about me? And our identity is attached to these goals we had for ourselves, these dreams, a relationship we may have been in, whatever. But your worth is not tied to whether this one thing worked out, and it never was. Who you are is constant. The external circumstances are simply experiences along your journey. They are not definitions of your value. And reframing the narrative means when you reframe the narrative, it's like reminding yourself, okay, this experience is shaping me, but it is not me. And I also like to look at the metaphysical perspective, like this whole idea of trusting the unfolding. Sometimes what looks like rejection is actually redirection. And that's what I mentioned earlier. There's a whole episode on rejection to redirection. Imagine being on this river. Okay, so here you are, you're on a river and you're paddling toward what you think is the right path. Only you hit this really strong current and it pulls you in a different direction. And you resist. You're fighting it. You're fighting against it. And you are like exhausting yourself. But what if that current knows something you don't? What if that current is going to take you to the most amazing destination and the most beautiful path to get there? From a higher perspective, your soul already knows the way. And the ego may be fixated on one specific outcome, but the universe is always guiding you toward your highest good. And trusting the unfolding doesn't mean that you don't feel disappointment. It means that you recognize that what's meant for you will not pass you by. And that when you really and truly know that, you know that, yes, you may feel disappointed. Maybe this isn't the way you thought it would happen. And things are always working out for you. So now what do? You got to create a new story that serves you. Once you recognize that this narrative that you had been telling yourself, you have the power to rewrite it. So instead of saying, I failed, what if you reframe it as, I learned something valuable that will help me succeed next time? And instead of saying, I lost something important, what if you saw it as, I'm making space for something even more aligned? And guys, this is not about toxic positivity. Trust me, it's not. This is about choosing a perspective that empowers you instead of that one that keeps you stuck. And because toxic positivity would be being, that's the whole, and there was probably a phase where when I was first learning all this, wasn't even aware that I probably was doing that for a short period of time, but I was, the whole good vibes only. And no, there's the darkness too. It's not all love and light. It is focus on the love, focus on the light. You are love, you are light. And focus on the positive, yes, but there's also the shadow there too, and you can't ignore no emotion. There's not bad emotions. Every emotion is valid. Everyone is necessary. We have to feel them. So that's the thing. It's not about saying that you can't feel these things. It's just saying that I'm not going to get stuck here, and I'm going to choose a perspective that empowers me. And ask yourself this, if I could tell this story of this experience from my highest self's perspective, what would it sound like? And then that right there, it will tell you a lot. I think the next thing to do is after this, so we've reframed the narrative, and now it's like taking aligned action, moving forward with intention. Because feeling and then reframing are essential, but at some point you have to take action again. And the key is to do so from a place of alignment rather than fear or desperation. And micro movements, like small steps, the power of small steps. After you've experienced a setback, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the idea of moving forward. I know, but you don't have to rebuild everything overnight. What is one tiny action that you can take today that moves you forward? Even if it's just 1%. What moves the needle? Small aligned actions create momentum, and momentum is what ultimately gets you unstuck. So, what's one tiny action you can take today that moves you forward? And then energetic calibration, like acting from trust versus acting from fear. Ask yourself this: am I taking this action because I trust in the process? Or am I taking this action because I'm afraid nothing else will work out? There's different energy there. If you're taking this action because you're like, I trust the process, I trust that everything's going to work out. Or it's like, I'm desperate, I'm doing this because I'm afraid nothing's going to work out. When we act from desperation, we often make choices that are not truly aligned. And when we act from trust, we attract opportunities that are. And a great way to check in is to notice, how does your body feel? Does the action feel forced and like heavy? Or does it feel expansive, light and expansive? You can feel it in your body. And the more mindful you are of this, and the more you practice this, tuning in with your body, checking in with your body, paying attention to your body, the more naturally these things will come. You'll be able to really trust your inner wisdom. Now let's talk about the role of play and joy in rebuilding. Because after disappointment, we can often get stuck in this mindset of seriousness. And the thing is like joy is a catalyst for creative solutions and new opportunities. And sometimes it feels hard to even I don't feel like being joyful. I'm sad, right? You don't even want to think about being joyful. Maybe because you just want to feel sad a little more. But here's the thing: do something just for the sake of enjoyment. Dance, create, laugh, and do it without guilt. Give yourself permission to do something just for the sake of joy. Truly, guys, just even if it's one song, your favorite song, put it on, dance. Create something. Doesn't have to be something you're going to post, you're going to share, that you're going to gift somebody. Just create something. Laugh. Do you know, I watched something the other day, and it was I think it was two guys who were laughing Bohemian Rhapsody. And when I say laughing, they were laughing to maybe y'all have seen this. They were laughing to the lyrics. And I don't know how they didn't get carried away and just keep laughing. But I know this: if you want to laugh, just YouTube a video of people laughing. And it really is contagious, because it's hard to watch other people laughing for long enough without also starting to laugh. And that's fun. I think there's also something called laugh therapy, where you just go, ha, and then the other person, ha, 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 ha. And you just keep doing this back and forth. And y'all, it's funny. I've watched it, and you eventually, the laughs are so fake and forced, I guess, in the beginning, but then they become so genuine and real. And it's so just, all that to say, laugh. This raises your frequency and it opens new doors. the universe responds to the energy that you bring. And if you're open and playful and light, you will attract solutions that you couldn't have predicted. So be open to unexpected outcomes. The next opportunity, the next love, the next business idea might come from somewhere completely unexpected. And if you cling too tightly to your original vision, you might miss what is actually trying to find you. There is a saying, I'm sure you've heard it. Sometimes you have to let go of the life you had planned to live the life that is waiting for you. Guys, stay open, stay curious, let life surprise you, and ask yourself, what is one small aligned action that I can take today to move forward? And especially if you have recently experienced one of these setbacks, these broken hearts, these grieving moments, these losses, this, life-changing type of experiences in your life. There's a little story I want to leave you with. It's an old story about a woman who carried 2 pots of water each day. And one pot was whole and the other pot had a crack in it. And by the time she reached her home, the cracked pot had lost half of its water. And one day the pot apologized. I'm broken. I spill water. I'm not good enough. And the woman smiled and said, look at the path we walk every day. And the pot looked down and saw that on its side of the path, flowers were growing. Beautiful, vibrant flowers that wouldn't have been there without the spilled water. And the lesson here is this: what feels like a flaw or a mistake or a failure might actually be creating something more beautiful than you could have imagined. You just might not see it yet. I want to close with a couple final thoughts and an invitation for integration. Disappointment and failure and loss are a part of life. Guys, they're a part of life, but they don't define you. And your emotions deserve to be felt. And your story deserves to be rewritten. And your path deserves to unfold in its own divine timing. So trust, believe, and take the next small step. And if you knew this experience was happening for you, how would you choose to move forward? I hope that this episode gave you perspective or some comfort or some insight or something that will help you if you are going through one of those moments in your life. I am sending you love. You will get through this. Your current situation is not your final destination. And trust and believe. Trust and believe. Sending you much love, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It. I hope today's episode sparked something powerful within you. Remember, every step you take towards your vision counts, no matter how small. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a second to hit that subscribe button or leave a review. That would be amazing. Or share the podcast with someone who's ready to bring their dreams into reality too. And if you're looking to dive deeper, connect with me on social media at Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, or at BE_what you want. Or visit dreameditthenreallifedit.us for more resources on aligning your life, business, and dreams. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep manifesting your dreams into real life. Love you, friends.